We have talked to someone who is brave enough to come to Ukraine these days to help us to define those choices in a lecturing course in Kyiv School of Economics called Social Values and Public Choices with Application to Ukraine's Reconstruction. Meet an economist and data scientist at the University of Virginia, USA, Dr. Athena Small, currently in Kyiv, in interview for UATV. So we are at Kyiv School of Economics today, in Kyiv, obviously. My interlocutor today is Dr. Athena Small, a data scientist, an economist. Dr. Small, Ukraine is at war, and you belong to Virginia, United States of America. What are you doing here? Teaching for free?
Yes.
It's the second time already you're here, right?
That's right. It's actually it's my third visit to Ukraine, but the second time coming to teach here.
Why?
The short answer is because of democracy. Because I believe that right now, Ukraine's war and the conflicts we're having in the United States are really the same conflict. I'm coming here in solidarity, but also because I want to support what I see as our side in this war. On the theme of Ukraine's national identity and how it's changing in response to the war and independence.
How is it changing?
Well, you see clearly a strengthening of volunteerism in civil society. You see change in the rights of LGBT people.
Right.
You see a change away from Russian language to the embrace of Ukrainian language and literature, and decolonization of the mind. And these things are going to, I see a new national identity emerging. That may be a very strong thing for a foreigner to say, but that's the way it seems.
Yeah, well, that's what you see.
That's what I see.
Yeah, but that identity, that should be inborn already. That should be in the mentality of the nation to, at some point, to rise when the nation needs it most.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure, it's coming out of a tradition that's centuries old, clearly.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. Because see what's going on in Russia now.
Yeah.
People just flee. I mean, they run away from the tyrant, from the dictator that changes everything and say, I'm going to change the constitution. Like, we're the people, Putin.
Right.
It's lovely. Yeah.
Well, you don't see in Russia. I can't judge. I'm not there, but you don't see the same kind of joining together in civil society that you see here. You see an atomized society of people who don't feel a sense of solidarity with one another that you see in Ukraine. I see a big, stark difference there.
So much for the Putin's brotherhood.
Yeah, brotherhood. Yeah.
Tell me a bit more of the course. What are you teaching? What are you giving? Why?
Right.
For whom?
Okay, well, so this time, let me say last year I taught a different course. I taught a course in techniques in data science.
Right.
This year I am teaching about, it's more philosophical. It's motivated by Ukraine's reconstruction, which we know will come soon, once Ukraine wins the war. And then there will be a lot of needs. There will be a lot of challenges to allocate scarce resources to so many different needs. So the question is, how do you think about that difficult problem? How do you think about making these hard choices between conflicting needs, different projects? And so we're looking at different ways of thinking about that general challenge.
Well, in terms of society or the government?
In terms of society overall, Ukrainian society overall, but it's really any society. How does it confront, the name of the course is Social Values and Public Choices.
Right.
So it's how, what I'm increasingly interested in is how our values inform our choices. And it's motivated in part by a belief that the way that I, as an economist, was trained, and the way that I've taught before, is too limited in not making space for values and ethics in the way we conceive of our future as a people.
So in your course, economy is like overlaps with philosophy.
Yes. Yes. If
I would love to take it.
You'd be welcome.
Yeah,
please.
great. Yeah. Changes in the world economy due to this war, what are the most important in your opinion?
The changes in the economy. I would say the most important probably, there's so many, but probably the most important is a realization that supply chains are not as robust internationally as we thought they were. That we believed after the fall of the Berlin Wall and after the starting of the 90s that we could have a global production system that was completely without politics, that we could sort of take the politics out of economics globally and we could just make stuff anywhere and politics, would happen only in, somewhere else. We've learned the very hard lesson that that's not the case. And I think that you're going to see, insofar as I have opinions, you're going to see firms being a lot more careful about where they locate production and thinking that they need stable, strong institutions, and maybe those can only be really guaranteed by democracies that guarantee rights. That if you locate your production in Russia, if you locate your production in a country that doesn't honor its commitments, then you're giving yourself a risk that you may wish to avoid. So we may see more separation of economics into spheres and maybe the democratic countries being depending more on each other.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah. I personally think that Ukraine will win, and it is inevitable.
I believe that as well.
What happens to Ukrainian economy? The present state it is in, and what happens after?
Okay.
Should be a boom, probably, or what is your opinion as a scientist?
Okay, so let's say I don't consider myself a macroeconomic forecaster by training. I work in energy, environment, and climate, but I'm going to nonetheless venture a thought, which is it seems clear that Ukraine is heading for joining the European Union. The European Union has already extended the open door, the welcome mat. We see that every country that joined the European Union in the decade before and after enjoyed an enormous economic boom. Spain, Portugal, Greece, Poland, the Baltics, every single time. And I believe this will happen for Ukraine as well. I think Ukraine will have a glory decade as soon as the war is over.
Let's talk about the sanctions.
Mm-hmm.
US and Europe, are sanctions really working these days? Of course, I mean, Russia is a big country and the inertia is enormous of the economy. But can we see already something visible that hits the country of aggressor?
Absolutely. You're already seeing they're making a lot less on their sales of fossil fuels. You think of and that is really the bread and butter of the Russian economy. And they are having to sell less oil, less gas, and what they're selling at a discount. Clearly, China is having a lovely time of this war with being able to get these resources at a discount. Their possibilities of importing high-end manufacturing equipment, the equipment you need to actually do the high-end manufacturing, is cut off. Understand that their airplanes are having to cannibalize planes to get spare parts for other planes. And yes, there's a lot of inertia, but clearly it's hurting. Now, I wish that the sanctions were tougher. I wish that frankly, I see Russia as acting like ISIS. This is a terrorist organization that happens to have a seat at the United Nations, but they should be treated like a terrorist organization. Their access to the financial system should be completely cut off. I understand why the U.S. State Department is reluctant to do this, but we should no longer be treating them like a legitimate nation state.
What do you think we should do more as a world, and what sanctions should we put on them to make Ukraine win faster?
They should be treated as pariahs in every way.
How can we do that worldwide?
Switch the
SWIFT off or something?
Well, the SWIFT is
This
pretty much
is
already
already
switched
off,
off.
yeah,
But there are still Russian financial institutions that are allowed to operate in international markets. There are still American companies that are operating in, and other Western companies that are operating in Russia. When the United States was dealing with North Korea, when it was dealing with Cuba, there was no messing around, if you will. There was no hedging. They would just say, you cannot do business in the United States and North Korea at the same time. You have to pick one market or the other. This is the attitude that we should be taking towards Russia, I believe.
Why we're not taking that at full at the moment?
Right now, I guess you'd have to ask Anthony Blinken and the others in the U.S. Okay, clearly, there's, I mean, I suppose I should say really should ask them, but I'll give you my guesses, which is that
Of course, only the guesses
you sort of, once you've done the full hammer, once you've done every last thing, you have nothing more to do. Therefore, there's no more threat of a marginal additional sanction. Therefore, once you've done everything, you could say there are no more threats you can give. Therefore, no more. They have nothing to lose anymore by continuing with the war. But I think Putin has shown that he's never going to give up until he is stopped. He will not stop until he is stopped.
This is exactly because we don't need an appeasement in Ukraine. We need peace. We need to win the war.
We need to win the war.
Exactly.
Peace through winning, not peace.
Not to halt it, not to stop it,
Yeah.
not to give them a time to
Right.
get more military resources on the borders and across it. So yeah, exactly.
He's had every opportunity to rethink, and
All of the lines have been crossed.
yeah, all the lines have been crossed.
Yeah.
I suppose always in the background there is the concern about his nuclear option. Of course, that sensibly has to weigh in their thinking, but and maybe they know things that I don't know, but it doesn't seem like additional financial sanctions or additional other kinds of market sanctions would trigger that. But maybe they know something else.
Some people think that Putin is bad but not mad and would never use it. Do you think this is the case?
What do I know about Putin? What goes on in Putin's mind? But my best guess is that he is rational within his worldview. That he is, yes. And moreover, again, who knows, but that he would have to have legitimate concerns about whether or not the military in Russia would turn on him if he actually
At some point
did try to launch a nuclear option.
Right.
But the other way of thinking about it is, okay, he's got this nuclear baton. Well, at what point do you say? At what point do you stop falling for that? Okay, when he invades Poland, when do you say? It's
time.
You might as well say it now because you're going to have to say it.
Well, tell me personally. Well, you've been here. You're already here for the second time, as you told me. Are you afraid?
Afraid? No. I mean,
why?
Okay, the grim answer.
The democracy is going to defend you?
No, the answer is, well, you know what? We're all going to die someday of something.
Really?
Yes. I'm afraid to tell you this,
Comes
Henry.
as a surprise.
No, maybe not you, but the rest of us.
Oh, God.
So relax.
Okay.
And I'm not prepared to live according to the fear of death. Moreover, I think, I had friends, family back home ask me, what, you're going to Ukraine, what's good? And I said, look, I think about this rationally, realistically. You would have to have very, very, very bad luck to be in the one building in Kiev that the bomb falls on. I don't think that this is, the risks that I'm taking, they may be real, but they're not out of line with risks that I take routinely in the rest of my life.
What's the motivation for the foreign companies and for the Ukrainians that have fled the country to return home? Is that only economical boom, or this is a public choice?
This is both an individual and a public choice, but clearly, it's the same thing that motivates people in lots of places around the world. Mexicans who come to the U.S. and some come home, some don't. there is a real concern that the longer the war drags on, more Ukrainians will establish themselves. They'll have lives that they've built, jobs and housing and so on, and that fewer will come home. So that's another reason to end the war as quickly as possible. But ultimately, of course, these will be personal choices. As I suggested, joining the European Union will create a lot of economic opportunities, and particularly opportunities for those who can act as in these bridging roles, who have one foot in Ukraine and one foot in the EU. There'll be a lot of opportunities for them, and there may be a style of living, of migration, that involves less, not just being in strictly one country or the other, but playing these bridging roles.
Right.
And that may actually be extremely valuable for Ukraine's integration into the EU. What will bring them back will be, of course, a combination of their economic opportunities and their pull towards home. But I think both of those there'll be a lot of opportunities in the coming decade after the war is over.
Thank you very much. You're a lovely guest.
Well, it's so lovely to be here.